Have you ever met someone who seems to live inside a permanent Instagram filter? Their smile is always on, their laugh is perfectly timed, and no matter what's happening in the world, or in their own life, they insist everything is great, amazing, or blessed. On the surface, they're the happiest person you know. But something feels off. Their eyes don't quite match their mouth. Their energy feels forced. You leave the conversation wondering if you just spoke to a real human being or a very convincing performance. These are the people who pretend to be happy. And there are far more of them than most of us realize. Pretending to be happy isn't just putting on a brave face after a bad day. It's a chronic, deeply ingrained pattern of emotional suppression and image management. It's smiling through grief, laughing through anxiety, and posting "living my best life" while quietly falling apart inside. Psychologists have studied this phenomenon for decades under different names: surface acting, emotional dissonance, repressive coping, the false self, and even pathological positive thinking. Whatever we call it, the core is the same. A person has decided, consciously or unconsciously, that showing real pain, sadness, anger, or vulnerability is not an option. So they build a mask. And they wear it so well that sometimes even they start to believe it's their real face. Today, we're going deep into the psychology of these individuals. We'll explore why someone chooses performative happiness over authentic emotion, what's happening inside their mind and body while they do it, the hidden costs they pay, the childhood roots that often plant the seed, the personality traits that make it more likely, and, most importantly, whether it's possible to take the mask off without shattering completely. Part 1. The mask has a purpose. Why people start pretending. No one wakes up one day and randomly decides, "I think I'll fake happiness for the next 20 years. It starts small, usually in childhood or adolescence, and it always serves a survival function. The most common origin story is conditional love. A child learns very early that certain emotions make caregivers uncomfortable, angry, distant, or dismissive. Sadness might be met with, "Stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about." Anger might be punished. Fear might be mocked. Needing comfort might be seen as weakness or manipulation. Over time, the child makes a devastating calculation. If I show how I really feel, I will be rejected, abandoned, or hurt. But if I act happy and easygoing, people stay close, praise me, and keep me safe. Psychologist Alice Miller called this the development of the false self. The real self, the one that feels scared, hurt, angry, or overwhelmed, gets buried. The false self, the cheerful, low-maintenance, ever-positive version, becomes the public representative. Another major driver is perfectionism and fear of judgment. In families, schools, religions, or cultures that glorify achievement and emotional control, vulnerability is treated as failure. Admitting struggle feels like handing ammunition to critics. So the child, and later the adult, learns to broadcast happiness as proof of success. "See, I have it all together. Nothing can touch me." Social media has supercharged this dynamic. We now live in an environment where curated joy is not just rewarded, it's currency. Likes, followers, and opportunities flow toward the person who looks effortlessly happy. The algorithm literally punishes anything that looks too real, too messy, too human. So the mask stops being just protection. It becomes strategy. Part 2. The inner experience. What it actually feels like behind the smile. From the outside, they look unshakably upbeat. From the inside, it's a very different story. Psychologists use the term emotional labor to describe the effort required to display emotions you don't feel. When someone is chronically pretending to be happier than they are, they're engaged in what's called surface acting, changing the outer expression while the inner feeling stays exactly the same. Study after study shows that surface acting is exhausting. It activates the sympathetic nervous system the same way real stress does. Heart rate goes up. Cortisol rises. The body is in a constant low-grade fight-or-flight state because, on a biological level, it knows the truth is being hidden. Over time, this creates emotional dissonance, a painful tension between what you feel and what you show. The greater the gap, the worse the internal suffering. Many people describe it as feeling hollow, numb, or like I'm watching my own life from behind glass. There's another terrifying layer: memory distortion. When you repeatedly tell yourself and others, "I'm fine," while you're actually crumbling, the brain starts to rewrite history. People who chronically pretend to be happy often struggle to recall how bad things actually were. They gaslight themselves. It couldn't have been that bad. I was smiling in all the photos. This is one of the reasons depression in these individuals often goes unnoticed until it's severe. They've trained everyone, including themselves, to ignore the warning signs. Part 3. The personality types most likely to wear the mask. Not everyone who experiences pain pretends to be happy. Certain personality traits and attachment styles make it dramatically more likely. Anxious ambivalent or fearful avoidant attachment, people who grew up terrified of abandonment but also expecting rejection often become master performers. Happiness becomes a plea. If I'm cheerful enough, maybe you'll finally love me and never leave. High-functioning anxiety plus perfectionism, many chronic pretenders score off the charts on perfectionism scales. Admitting unhappiness feels like admitting defeat. They'd rather die than let anyone see a crack. People-pleasing and high-empathy empaths often absorb others' discomfort with negative emotion and decide it's their job to regulate the room. They'll sacrifice their own emotional truth to keep everyone else comfortable. Repressive coping style. Some individuals are naturally high in repressive defensiveness, a trait where they unconsciously block negative emotions from awareness. These people often genuinely believe they're happy, until the repression fails spectacularly in the form of panic attacks, unexplained illness, or sudden emotional collapse. Cultural and gender conditioning. Women, in particular, face enormous pressure to be pleasant and likable. Research consistently shows women engage in more surface acting than men, especially in professional and social settings. Part 4. The hidden costs. What pretending actually does to you. Pretending to be happy doesn't just feel bad. It causes measurable damage. Physical health. Chronic emotional suppression is linked to higher rates of cardiovascular disease, weakened immune function, gastrointestinal problems, and even faster cellular aging. The body keeps the score even when the mind refuses to. Mental health. Surface acting is one of the strongest predictors of burnout and depression. The longer and more intensely someone fakes positive emotion, the higher their risk of major depressive episode, often presenting suddenly and severely because it's been suppressed for years. Relationships. Intimacy requires vulnerability. When one person is always performing happiness, real connection becomes impossible. Partners feel shut out. Friends stop trusting them. Children grow up learning the same toxic lesson: emotions are dangerous. Identity erosion. The longer the mask is worn, the harder it becomes to know who you are without it. Many people in their 30s, 40s, or 50s wake up one day and realize they have no idea what they actually feel about anything. The false self has completely overtaken the real one. Part 5. The breaking point, when the mask finally cracks. For most chronic pretenders, there comes a moment when the system fails. Sometimes it's gradual. The exhaustion becomes unbearable, the body starts screaming through illness, or the numbness turns into full-blown depression. Sometimes it's sudden, a betrayal, a loss, a public humiliation that can't be smiled away. The mask shatters, and everything that was buried comes rushing up at once: grief, rage, terror, despair. This is often misdiagnosed as a nervous breakdown, but it's actually a breakthrough in disguise. The psyche is finally refusing to cooperate with the lie. Part 6. The path back to real happiness. Is recovery possible? Yes. But it's not easy, and it's rarely linear. The first step is always awareness, recognizing that you've been pretending and that it's been costing you your life. This often requires an external mirror, a therapist, a brutally honest friend, a partner who finally says, "I can't reach you." The second step is grief. You have to mourn the years spent performing, the relationships that suffered, the parts of yourself you abandoned. Many people resist this stage because it feels like wallowing, but it's essential. The third step is relearning emotional expression in safe environments. This might mean practicing saying, "I'm not okay," out loud for the first time in decades. It might mean crying in front of another human being and discovering the world doesn't end. The fourth step is rebuilding identity. Who are you when you're not managing everyone's perception of you? What do you actually like, want, need, feel? These questions can be terrifying after a lifetime of avoidance. Therapeutic approaches that help the most. Internal family systems, IFS, to reconnect with the exiled real self, parts emotion focus therapy, EFT, to feel and express suppressed emotions safely. Somatic therapies, because the body often holds the truth before the mind is ready. Depth psychology and trauma work, especially if the roots are in childhood neglect or abuse. Closing. Here's the hardest truth about people who pretend to be happy. They're not fooling anyone who's paying real attention. The people who love them can feel the distance. The people who know them best can see the exhaustion behind the eyes. And deep down, they know it too. Real happiness isn't the absence of pain. It's the presence of authenticity, the freedom to feel whatever is true in any given moment, knowing you'll still be loved and safe. If you recognize yourself in this script, please hear this: the mask saved you once. It did its job. But you don't need it anymore. You are allowed to be human, messy, complicated, sometimes sad, sometimes furious, sometimes lost. And paradoxically, the moment you start risking realness, you'll discover something the mask could never give you: genuine connection, genuine peace, and a kind of happiness that doesn't have to be performed, because it finally belongs to the real you.